Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'll be showing us how to cut this cropped shirt agbada. I don't know what to call it because it's a free top, it's cropped, and most importantly it has a collar. So I'll be showing us how to cut this, and in my next tutorial I'll show us how to sew it step by step. Yeah, so let's get started. The first thing to do is we're going to be drafting the back of this top. Yeah, so I have my shoulder line already drawn there, and the length of the paper is the length of my top. So I did 22 inches plus seam allowance altogether. So after sewing, probably to be about 20 inches thereabout. So after the shoulder line, you're going to mark the sleeve opening. So my shoulder to the line where I have the sleeve opening, I use about 11 inches. You can't use your armhole. Yeah, so you need to add some allowance to your armhole measurement so that you'll be able to move your hand up and down. So I did 11 and a half. So shoulder to this line I'm about to draw is 11 and a half. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just trying to extend the lines. It's a very simple tutorial. I think the complex part is just the color, which is even simple. Yeah. Okay, so next thing I'm going to mark my across back measurements. Yeah, so my across back measurement is 7.5. That is half of your shoulder measurement. Sorry, I'm marking the neckline. I beg your pardon. So I'm doing 3 by 1, 3 inches by 1 inches for the back neckline. Yeah. So I'm just using my curved ruler to draw the neckline like so. Yeah. So I did 3 by 1 inches. Then I can now mark my across back measurements, okay, which is 7.5. You can do 8, depends on your own measurements. So that's my across back measurement. Then on this line here, I'm going to be marking quarter of my bust circumference, okay. First, that's the first thing I want to mark first. So it's just a guideline, quarter of my bust circumference, okay. And then from the shoulder line where I marked the across back measurement, I'll now add the length of my sleeve. So I added about 11 inches, okay, because the way the top is, we're cutting the sleeve and the blouse together, so you're adding your across back measurement plus 11, so that's about 18 inches for me. I'll mark the same thing on this second line here. Yeah, and I'm not going to link everything together, okay. So yeah, I'm linking it together like that. And then I will put the same measurement I have on this line on the waistline. So it's just like you're having a box. It's like a box top. There's no difference between the waist and the bust. Okay, the one want to start sewing, was it going to adjust the sighting? But just let's just draw this first. So this is the pattern here. Now this is my back, and next thing now I'm going to slant the shoulder so that it has some kind of shape around the shoulder area. Yeah, so I'm going to come down by 1 inch, okay. Yeah, from the other end there. But before I do that, let me just cut out this pattern so that we can see what I'm doing very well. Yeah, so after cutting out, now I'm going to cut out the neckline like that, and then I can now mark my 1 inch. I'll come down from 1 inch on that shoulder line so that I can have my shoulder slants, okay. As small as this is, it has significance. If you just sew it directly, it's going to have one kind of funny look. So I've slanted the shoulder by 1 inch, okay. So I'm just going to cut out. Now personally, I add my seam allowance when I'm cutting the fabric, so I didn't add any seam allowance. The only seam allowance I added was the length of the blouse, which I already calculated, okay. So I'm just trimming out the excess, and then I'm going to use this to cut out the fabric. Now the back is going to be on fold, okay. Yeah, so we're cutting the back on fold. Now to cut the front, we can still use the same pattern, But let me quickly cut out my fabric for the back so that we can use the same pattern paper to cut the front. Okay, so you can see that the back is on fold, and then I'll just add my seam allowance to the neckline and the shoulder slant. Okay, don't forget the back is on fold, and I didn't add any allowance to the lower part because I already added my allowance to the pattern paper. Right, so this is it here. I'm just going to cut out. Okay, so I'm just pinning it. Yeah, so I have a smaller piece now. Now I'm going to add my half-inch seam allowance to the neckline and the shoulder slant. Okay, so automatically we can use this to cut the front. Don't forget this is the back. This is the back. So I'm just trimming out, as you can see. Then I'll add my half-inch seam allowance also to the neckline. So we're done with the back. Now coming back to the front, I'm still going to use the same pattern like I said earlier on. So what I'll do now is the front neckline is deeper than the back, so I'll just measure 4 inches for my front neck depth. Meanwhile, don't forget that we already took out 1 inch. Okay, so you have to remove that 1 inch first, then you mark your 4 inch for the front neckline. If I wanted it to be like a shirt, like very fitted, I could do 3 or 3.5, but I don't like stress in my life. I just like things it very free, so I did 4. You could do 3.5 if you want to. So I'm drawing the front neckline like this, and don't forget the front is going to have button allowance, but we'll add that on our fabric. So I'm trimming this part out. Now before I do any trimming, I want us to measure the back neckline and the front neckline. That is what we're going to be using to cut out the collar. Yes, you need the back neckline measurement and the front neckline measurement to drop the collar later. So I'm measuring my back neckline. This is 3.5. I'll just write it down somewhere. Now your own might not be 3.5, but you have to measure it. Okay, so this is my back 3.5, and then the front also I'll measure that. And don't forget that everything I'm measuring is half of it because it's on fold. So the front is about 6 inches. I'll also write that down somewhere. Okay, so once I write this down, I can confidently cut out the neckline now, and I'm not worried about the collar. So I'm going to cut out this. Once I cut out this neckline, this pattern automatically converts to my front pattern. Or what you can do is you can cut out 2 different patterns, one for front, one for back, so that I can save it for future purpose. Okay, so this is now my front pattern. I'm going to place this on my fabric, and I'll cut out. Meanwhile, the front is not on fold, and we're having 2 pieces of fabric for the front. Okay, so now I'm going to show something. This is my fabric here. I'm going to measure out 3 inches away from the edge of the fold. That is going to serve as my button allowance. Then I'll place the pattern we cut out now. I'm going to place it from the 3 inches mark. Can you see that? Okay, so I'll pin the pattern paper to the fabric, and then we're just going to cut out. Okay, we're going to cut out the neckline, the everything we need to cut out anyway. Then for the neckline there, we're going to extend it slightly. Let me just finish pinning the fabric to the pattern paper, and then we're just going to cut. Okay, so yeah, so for the front neckline part, before you start cutting, you want to just take a ruler and draw a straight line. Yeah, so like I said, you're going to use a ruler, but let me just trim out the excess parts that I don't want first. So I'm trimming out the sides like that, and then coming to the shoulder slant, I'll also add my half-inch seam allowance to the shoulder slant. Okay, here. Okay, now before we go ahead to cut the neckline, you're going to use your ruler to draw a straight line. You know the neckline is curved, but that the part where you have the button allowance has to be straight. So I'm going to use my ruler to draw a straight line like this. Yeah, so by the time I want to cut out my the fabric now, I'll add half-inch for seam allowance. I'll just quickly show us from that point. Yes, you're going to cut out with half-inch seam allowance. So if you want to this particular style, you can make yours longer. Anyhow, I just wanted to do something crop, that's why I chose this length. Okay, so this is it here. The next thing, I'm going to open up the front because the front is not on fold. I'm going to cut it open. Yeah, it's only the back that is on. So once you cut up, then you're going to notch out where the 3 inches mark stops. That 3 inch mark, you're going to notch both the upper parts and the lower part. So you need to notch it. Yeah. Because by the time you want to start creating the button allowance, you need to know where the button allowance is going to stop and all of that. So that is that about the top. Now let's go to the main part, which is the collar. Now to cut the collar is very simple, very simple. The first thing you want to do is to draw two straight lines, no measurements, but the distance from the first line to the second line is about 1.5 inch, 1.5 inches. Okay, now remember we measured our back neckline and the front neckline. Do you remember? Now our back neckline is 3.5. Why are we starting with the back? Because it is the back that is on fold. Okay, so the part of the dress that is on fold is the one you will mark first. So you mark 3.5 inch there. Then the length of the front neckline is about 6 inches. I'll mark that. Can you see? Very simple. So I'll mark the same thing on the second line. So I'm going to have like a rectangle. So this is my back and the other part is the front. So I'll mark the same thing, 3.5, and I'll also mark 6 inches. Now this value is not fixed. You have to measure your own neckline. I'm emphasizing on that. Okay, so I'm having a rectangle now, but our neckline is not squared, it's not straight. Our neckline is curved. So what I'll do now is I'm going to come up by ½ inch from that 6 inches mark that I mark. Then I also come up by ½ inch again from the second line. Okay, so ½ inch up on both sides of the line. Then I'm going to link that ½ inch to where I marked the back neckline. Do you get it? Like this. And the other one too, from there I'll link it there. So basically we still have the same rectangle. The only thing is now the rectangle is now curved, it's no longer straight, so this can fit into our neckline. So that part that is shaded, we don't need it anymore. Okay, so you just blend this part here, and that's all about the collar. So we have the collar, which is the lower part of the collar. Now I'm going to draft the shirt collar now. Okay, so for that one is very, very, very easy. Okay, I'm just trying to blend the curve. Okay, or what I should do, probably I'll use another color of marker to shade this lower color so that we don't get confused. Now for the upper part of the collar, you're going to measure at least 2.5. 2.5 is okay. If it's too high, it's not nice. 2.5 inches. Then I'm still going to take the original line we drew before. I'm still going to measure 2.5 inches again so that I have a square. So that I can have a square like this. Okay, then I'll draw this straight line. So yeah, the straight line is going to stop exactly where okay, let me draw the straight line first so that we can see it. I don't want to confuse us. So this is the straight line here. Can we see that? Then I'll make sure the straight line stops exactly where the other the box under is. Yeah, this is going to be perpendicular to each other like that. Can you see that it stops on the same line? Then the next thing now is from that point I'm going to extend it by, depends, 2.5 inches, depending on how long you want the collar to be. So I'm just going to do 2 inches. Okay, so I'm going to extend this line on top by that 2 or 3 inches, whichever one you decide to use. Can you see that? Okay, so once I extend it, I will now link it back to the lower collar. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my red marker to highlight this lower collar so that we don't get confused. Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, can we see it? So it is the red part that is our lower collar. Okay, so now I'm going to link that extended part, okay, to the lower collar. Okay, so I'm going to draw it in form of a an angle, sort of like this. Then the last thing we're going to do now is on the lower collar. It is the lower collar that we attached to the dress. We need to also add button allowance to it, or else we cannot have a top that has button allowance and there's no button allowance on the collar. So, and our button allowance is supposed to be 1 inch, right? So I'm going to extend that by 1 inch. So this is my tape rule. I'm going to mark 1 inch up, 1 inch down. Don't forget, we're only working with the red part. Okay, yeah, so I'll use my ruler now to connect that 1 inch part. So this 1 inch we do now is for button. It's for button. Okay. So I'm just going to link it together like this. So I'm just taking my time to explain the part of this collar. It's not difficult, it's very simple. Just try it. Okay, so I have my button allowance, which is 1 inch. Okay, some of you might be wondering, why did we add 3 inches to the blouse? When we start sewing, you know why. So this is it. So I'm just going to cut out the collar now. So we have two collars. We have the collar stand and the main shirt collar. The one down is the collar stand, the one on top is the main shirt collar. So I'm going to cut the one on top first. And then another thing is, because we curved the neckline of the collar under, okay, when you cut out the collar on top, that upper part, the lower part of the collar on top is not straight. It's not straight, obviously, because the collar down is not also straight. Okay, so cutting out the lower part of the collar, and then we're going to place this on our fabric and cut out. So for each of these, you're going to cut out four pieces. 2 will serve as fabric, 2 will serve as lining, because everything we're cutting here is on fold. Okay, so I'm cutting 4 of these. Then the upper collar can be on fold, or you can also cut 4 pieces, whichever one is all the same. Okay, and then we're going to add interfacing to each of them. Okay, so I'll quickly show us, and then in the next tutorial I'll show us how to sew it. So this is it here, can you see? So I have 4 of this. Okay, interfacing on 2 of it. Then the upper one, you can cut it on fold, or you also cut 4 of it. I hope you're not confused. So you have four of each of them, or the one on top can be on fold and you cut 2 of it. So this is how it looks like, and then I will show us how to complete the sewing parts in my next tutorial. I do hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Feel free to share, like, comment, and do not forget to follow my Facebook page or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.